Good evening, good day, good morning, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the channel. Craig here, and today we're looking at how we can, in WordPress, create a glowing border effect around our cards, buttons, really anything you want to apply this to. We're going to be looking at a card like this, but like I say, you can apply this to anything by following the same sort of process. At the end of the video, we won't just have a green line shooting around like this, and we'll have the whole border will be coloured by a multitude of colours, and they'll all be rotating around. We'll look at how we can increase the intensity of the glow and how much we can increase or decrease the amount of spread the glow has, so how much it kind of spreads across the screen. As a bit of a precursor, just to kind of set people's expectations, we are using the bricks builder in this tutorial. That is my builder of choice, but nothing we do today here relies on bricks in any way, shape or form. We are going to be using standard CSS. There's no JavaScript or anything like that involved. We will be writing some CSS ourselves, but also there will be some default kind of or standard CSS stuff just applied within the bricks builder itself. If you use a different builder like Elementor or the Gutenberg builder or any other WordPress builder, that's okay. You should be able to adapt this to any of those different builders that exist. Any problems, drop a comment below, and we can have a little chat and see what you need to do to adapt this to your situation. With all that said and done, let's get stuck in, is it? So we're going to go into Bricks Builder here. I've got this set up ready to go. I didn't want to kind of go through the initial setup, but I will give you a quick overview of what I have done. We just got one section with a container in it. These are not important for the actual card itself and the glowing effect. It's just something to build in. We can build in anything we want. So I've just set these up. I've given the section a layout. Set the height to a calculated value of 100% of the vertical height of the window minus 80 pixels, and that's because that's the height of the header here, the navigation bar. So that gives us a big window here that we can work with a dark background. Not necessary. Nothing we've got so far here is in any way will impact the end result. Obviously, a dark background, it kind of lends itself well to a glowing effect, but you could just as easily do this on a white background, or whatever you want. The other thing I've done is I've set the align main axes and cross axes to center, so the contents of the section sits in the middle, and that's our container here. And so that's that. And then our container itself has also been set so that everything is in the center. Both our section, for those not using bricks, are using display of flex. Obviously, just as a context, these are the options you might have, but we're using a display of flex. Again, like I said, none of this is a requirement for what we're going to achieve today. This is just a bit of layout, just to give us somewhere to build in, a little sandbox, if you like. What I am going to do is I am going to set this container to be a display of grid. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it 3 columns. So we're going to say repeat 3 times 1FR, and that'll give us 3 columns. And later on, we're doing this so that later on we can put 3 of these cards on the screen, which is fairly typical of a lot of layouts. So that's that. And is there anything else I want to do before I carry on and actually start building this? So no, that's it. We can crack on. So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna give the card something. We're gonna create the cards, and we're gonna use we just need some kind of element. I'm going to use a div because it's the most universally available and accepted. It's a standard HTML element. That's not to say that perhaps a block in bricks is not a valid HTML element, but divs are just something that it should be available across all builders, I think. So we're going to use a div. Let's put that in place. So here's our div. It's set over to the left at the moment in the first column of our grid that we've got. I'm going to move it into column 2, and just a little bit of a deviation here. And just for those who don't understand grid in great detail, that's not saying start in column 2, or that's not putting it in column 2 as such. It is the result, and we're perhaps being a bit picky here, but I just want you to kind of understand how this works, what this 2 refers to. This 2 doesn't refer to the column, but the line. And so your grid has a line here. That's line 1, that's line 2, that's line 3, and that's line 4. And why that's important is at the moment we're just simply asking this div to take up one unit of the grid, or one column of the grid. But if we wanted it to take up 2 columns, then doing 2-3 won't work. We're not saying start on 2 and end on 3. We're saying start on row 2 and end on row 3, not column 2 and column 3. And so to span those 2 columns, we need to say 2, start on 2, end on 4. We're not doing that. We're just, there was a little bit of a kind of a grid lesson there. We're just only care where we start, and then we'll let it end at its next spot automatically. So that's our container for the card. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start by giving the card itself some basic dimensions. And this isn't, again, super important, but what we want to do is make sure that you have visibility of everything that's going on. So what I'm going to do is give it a minimum width. What this value is doesn't really matter. I'm just going to say 300 pixels, and I'm going to say a minimum height of 300 pixels. And this is just to ensure that you can see everything that's going on. Because it's on a grid layout, it's spanned across the whole thing, so the minimum width is probably irrelevant, but just to ensure that some of the properties we apply to this doesn't cause it to kind of do anything strange, then we're going to do that. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to give it a position of a relative, and the reason is we're going to be placing some items in here with absolute positioning. So the container for those items needs to be relative, so that the things within can then be positioned absolutely. So that's that. Minimum width, minimum height. Oh, and the other thing we need to do is, we'll do this later. We'll do the last bit later, and it'll probably help you better understand what we're doing. So that's that. The other thing I do want to do actually is give this a radius on the corners. So let's go in here, and we're going to select it so that we can do them all. And we're going to say 20 pixels. So it's a nice rounded edge there. So that's our basic starting point. So that's all the CSS that we can apply using our builder interface. The next thing we need to do is we now need to go and apply some custom CSS, because we're going to be working with the before and after pseudo elements. So for those that don't know, what we're going to do here is, this is a bricks thing, but we can adapt this and do something different in other builders. What we want to do here is select this div, okay? So what I'm going to do, just before we go any further, is I'm going to just give this a class. And again, you need to bear in mind that your builder might be different to this, but we're going to give it a class of, we're going to just say, this is a demo, so I'm just going to give this DM for demo2 card, and that's a class, and that's a way of identifying that, okay? So I'm going to show you how you might do that in that custom CSS for those that are unfamiliar, we would say, why are we not typing? There we go. .dm to cad, and then we would continue on, okay? But because we're working in bricks, we're going to use this sort of magic selector, if you like. We press R and tab, and it puts the whole sort of word in there. And what that means is we are now working with, so I'm just going to deselect this class because I don't want to work with the class. Just to undo that, let's delete that so we don't cause any errors. I don't want to work with a class. You, if you're not using bricks, might want to work with a class, but because I'm working in bricks, I'm just going to use this magic selector here, which is root. And this is not the usual root that you find in CSS. This is a bricks thing, and it allows us to select this div is this root. So we are now selecting this div by saying that. But like I say, for you guys not in bricks, you would just say something like .dm2, or you might select the ID. You've got different options available to you. But I'm going to just use that magic selector like that. And then I'm going to create a before pseudo element. The first thing we got to do with the pseudo element is give it some content. And we're going to say content is nothing. That's all. We just need content. It can be nothing. And then we're going to do position absolute. Position ion absolute. And then we're going to go over, we're going to use inset of 0. Now, for those that don't know what inset is, this is the equivalent of saying, so we said absolute, which means, if you remember rightly, we set the div, the sort of primary kind of positioning on the actual div itself to relative, which allows us now to position things inside it absolutely. And what that means is we can do things like top 0, left 0, and this is going to make sure that that item, whatever it might be, you can't see it at the moment. We will give it some color in a minute, okay? And you'll see it. In fact, let's do exactly that. Let's just set our background color to red. So there you go. There's our before pseudo element. And if we just remove this a minute and we say right 0, and then we say, why is that not working? Because we've missed out a semicolon there. So top, left, right, and bottom 0. And what that's doing is telling essentially that this element, and this could just as easily be a div element. It hasn't got to be a pseudo element. It could be a span. It could be any element you want. And we're saying that you should start, that you should be aligned to the top, bottom, left, and right, which forces it to fill the space. But there's a shorthand way of writing this, and we can say inset 0, and that's the equivalent of doing what we just did. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is, again, the before pseudo element is got its own property, so we need to give it a border radius, radius of, again, 20 pixels to match the actual container itself. What have I done wrong there? Not before, but border radius. Why did you do that then? That was a bizarre thing. Border radius. We want that to be there, and there we go. And then we want, that's it for now. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to, before we carry on, we are first going to set some custom CSS variables. And to do that, we're going to want to do this. This is different root. This is standard CSS stuff. This is not like the root below where we got the percentage symbols either side. That's a bricks thing, selecting the current element that we are editing. This is standard CSS where we are, so colon root is different to this percentage root percentage, okay? So colon root is where we can set some custom variables. And what we're going to do is we're going to set some custom variables. I'm going to go to my, the one that I care about most is going to be I'm going to copy these values because there's a whole load of them. And we're going to want these. And this is going to be our colors. And that's going to sit like that. And what I'm going to do is we're going to put these back later on. And what we're going to do is match it up to what we started off with our demo. 222 is the color of the background, okay? This dark gray color. So we're just going to set these all to 2222. And we're going to leave the last one. The last one is going to be our color moving around. So that's that. And what we want to do is set our background to, this is repeating conic and gradient. And this is going to take a couple of things in. So we're going to say from, we want to say 0 degrees initially. We're going to change that later on. And we're going to use this as, we need to do this because we're going to use it in 2 places, okay? So that's why we're using this custom CSS variable. And there is that's what's going to form our border. So we'll leave that like that for a minute. And it's not moving at the moment. We'll get to that in a little while. So the next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to copy this. And we are going to go down here and we're going to change this to after. So we're going to create a second one that's almost exactly the same, but this one is also going to have a filter blur and it's going to have some opacity applied to it. So filter blur, and we're going to say 20 pixels. For now we can change this, and this is what will this is what diffuses the light, and as you can see it goes there. If I change this to a bigger number, 40 pixels, see how it now extends out further? It kind of, I know it like really glows out far, but it's not very intense. So let's keep it at 20 pixels, although 10 did look good. 20 pixels, and then we're going to apply some opacity. And this is how we can turn down some of the intensity on this. So opacity we want to set to, this runs from 0 up to 1, okay? And we want to, initially we're going to say 0.75, so that's 75% opacity. And that's that. So now we want to get this thing moving, all right? So to do that, we're first going to create some animation keyframes, and I just going to go here and we're going to say @ keyframes, and we're going to give it a name, and we're just going to call it rotating here. This can be anything you want. You can call it whatever you like, and in fact, to prove the point, I'm going to just call it bacon. Okay, and that's that. Now what we need to do is say, essentially, this is going to tell us what percentage of the animation, so at 0%, so right at the beginning of the animation, what do we want? We want this rotation, the bacon, as we've said, to be at 0 degrees. Close that. And then at 100%, we want this bacon to be at 360 degrees. Okay, and then we're going to go and where are we? Here we go. Now this shouldn't work. We're going to have to do a little something else to make this work, okay? So we need to put in here, we need to say that we want we're going to specify the animation and we're going to give it some details. So animation, this is where we specify which animation we're talking to. So we can have lots of these keyframes here, different ones for different animations. And we've called this one bacon. So we're going to say bacon. And we're going to say that this is going to take 4 seconds to complete its animation from 0 to 100%. That's what will speed it up. 4 seconds is how long it's going to take for this to go from here all the way around back to here. So where are we? Up here. And when we want it to say it's a linear movement, we don't want this kind of moving in like, you know, all over the place, slowing down, speeding up. Though I will say, because of this rounded edge, it will appear as though it's doing that, but it's not. And you'll see what I mean by that in a minute. But linear is what we want, and then we want it to happen, this animation to go on infinitely. So infinite, yeah, infinite, even infinite. Where's that? Yeah. So that's that. Nothing's happening. And the reason for it is that we need to create a special kind of, well, we're going to implicitly apply a why is this doing this? Let's go by here. Implicitly apply a custom variable. We're going to create our own, and to do this we've got to do or a custom property, I should say. We're going to do @property. We're going to say, we're going to give it a name, and we're going to call this ANG for angle. Do you know what? Right, let's just call it angle. No, I'm going to leave it like that because I want to prove the point that this can be called whatever you want. It just needs to be something that makes sense. So we're going to do that, and we're going to give it syntax. Now, this is essentially, you need to look up, I don't want the capital letters, syntax. This expects one of a number of different values, and the one we're interested in this case is angle. So that's that. So we're just creating this now, and we're going to say inherits false. So inherits equals false, and then we want the initial value for this to be 0 degrees. And so now we've created this property that of 0 degrees, that this will now work if we change oh, sorry. Well, the reason why that's not working is because, well, we haven't given any values either, or instructions on what we're changing. And what we're changing is, and the reason why we're doing is this, we're changing the background, but we're changing this very thing inside here, not the whole thing. We're just changing this. And so this is why we created this. We can't just say background, you know, this is what we should put here. But we haven't got anything for this value, and so we're creating this value by doing this property. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take this value here. We're going to say that this applies to this. So now we're going to be basically cycling through from 0 up to 360 and then back around and around and around, because we set it to infinite. We also want to copy this from our before and put it in our after. I'm going to put it here so it's in line with, remembering that we've got 2 extra properties down here. So that's it all set up. The only thing we now need to do is swap this out, because, and we need to say ANG, and now it's going around. Now the reason why that's there is because this static one, if you remember rightly, we also did an after, which is the exact same thing, but with the blur and opacity applied. So we also need to do that for this. Yeah. ANG, and there we go. So they're both now spinning around together. And so you might be wondering, how does this make a rotating border like we had before? So the way we're going to do that, all of this is done now. We don't need to apply any more custom CSS, and so we can forget about this now. This is done. We will come back and tinker with this, we will, but to change these colors and make it more colorful. In fact, let me just do that now. Let me go and get those original colors and let me show you what's going to happen. Let's swap these out for those original colors, and that's what we're going to have. And if you wanted to create gaps, so if we just say 222 there, see the gap is starting to form. We're removing these colors. And we can add more of these as well. So at the moment, it's that big. But if we took this and we copied it, and we pasted it here, you'll see that this is getting smaller because this is taking up, it's a proportion of this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If we put 2 more in there, this is now taking up 1/10 of the space. And so let's just undo some of this we've done. And what I'm going to do is, let's just leave that like that. And so we're going to build it as I have in the demo, and then we'll add the other colors later on. So that's that, okay? So let's now go and make this into a glowing border. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to come to our div here, and we're going to insert another div. Where's our divs here? Okay, there's our div here. Now, what do we want to do with this? So I'm going to give this a background color of the same as this background color. It could be any color you want, actually, because you're just doing a CAD, but I'm going to apply the same background color as what we've got going on there. Like I say, it could be any color. The internal sort of CAD can be whatever you want to be. And so let's do hash 222. And now that's that done. We also want to apply a border. This border needs to be a little smaller than the border radius, sorry. We're going to say 18. 18. Hang on, make sure we're selecting all 4 corners. 18. And that'll become apparent why. So we did 20 on the outside here. We want this CAD, essentially what this CAD is going to do is going to fill the space in the middle, covering over the majority of this, leaving a 2 pixel gap. Okay, so that's that. And now what we need to do is give this I'm going to set the width to 100%. And for the moment, I'm going to set the height to 100%. That hasn't really done a lot. Oh, and we also, yeah. So perhaps the best thing to do here is do what I did in my demo and give this some basic text. And the other thing we need to do is, so where's this? We need to come in here. We need to say that this is position relative. There we go. There it is. And we need to give a Z index of 1. We need to put it on top. And you're going to see now that this here covers it, yeah? So if we go back here and we say that this is 100%, we still not got the glowing border like we had before. So this is consuming the entire space, yeah? To get the glowing border, we need to go back to our sort of lower where the glowing effect is happening, and we need to give it some padding. And let's make sure we got all 4 corners. And there you go. You've got your glowing border. Let's just go in here and tidy this up a bit. Let's give this some padding of, say, 2 rem. And for a start off, let's select this 2 rem. There we go. Our text is in there. And And that's it. You know, you've got a border. Now, what I would do is at the moment, this is set to a height of 300 pixels. Let's change that. Let's get rid of that. So now the size, your card's width is set by the grid width. We don't need this value because it's in a grid container. If it wasn't in a grid container, we would want to apply a width not to the outer card but the inner card. We'd want to set the width of this and let this width, I believe this should work regardless now, and if not, we would put fit content in here, and the same for the height, fit, and we would write it like this, fit content, and that will ensure that it fits the content. Okay, so but we're not going to do that. We're just going to leave it like that. We shouldn't need to do anything else. And then let's just go and grab that text that I had before, just to kind of get that same look. Let's go here. Let's put that text in there. Let's go and change the color of it. Typography, change this to there we go, some off-white color. Let's go and put a heading in there. Is it put that at the top like that? Again, let's go into typography and give that some sort of, why is that not bricks playing funny buggers? Is it? There we go. I'm a heading. There's all of that. And essentially that's it. What we're going to do now just quickly though is do as I promised. Let's go back to our styles. Let's jump back into our CSS and let's go and change those colors out back for those original rainbow colors. And there's the entire glowing effect. Of course you can change any of these colors out for whatever you want and have as many of them in there as you want. So that's effectively it. Now the only thing other thing I said I would do is show you how to tone down the intensity. So first off, like I already showed you this lets you set the spread. So I'm going to change this right down to 10. I feel like that's a really good one. And then if we change this to 25, it kind of also tames it down a bit. We could set this to 1 or we could set it to 0, and 0 is very, you know, there's essentially now the layer above is invisible, so we're not seeing the glowing at all. So realistically speaking, these two things do very similar, have very similar effects on the overall look. Okay, you can just play around with them and see what they do for yourself. Of course, we can speed this up with this. Let's go 2 seconds, and for that, let's go back to, just so that you can see it a bit better. Let's change this. Where's it gone? Oh yes, we need to change it in both places. There it is. 2 seconds. There you go. Let's change it to 1 second. It's going at a different speed to the so now you've got the glowing effect. The diffused layer is running at a different pace than the main layer. We could really be silly here and go 0.2 seconds and watch it fly around like crazy. We'd perhaps want to do the same thing here. So yes, you know what you know, play with that as you will, and to give you some idea as to what this would look at, the way by it's kind of going up and down, and we can do ease in and out. So it's doing all kinds of funky things. So that's why we want that to be linear. So it kind of runs relatively smooth. Yeah, so that's it. Any questions? Oh, the last thing I was going to do for you was going to show you this CSS. Sorry for that jumping all over the place. So this is the CSS. We haven't. This is not active. This is currently inactive, but this is the kind of everything you need to apply. I will share in the comments, because at the moment my channel's so new I can't share links in the video description. So I will put in the comments a link to the code, which includes a copy of this section and all of this, so you'll be able to drop it straight into your project. I did say I was going to do something else, didn't I? I said I was going to replicate this. Sorry, we're deviating a little bit here. Let's get rid of that. And then let's just duplicate that, is it? And let's go and give this container a bit of a gap. Let's give this a gap of 10 pixels. So let's go up to 20, is it? There you go. And they're all running at different paces. And so yes, that's all three of them all running together. As I was saying, sorry, I will share a link in the comments which will contain this for you to copy and paste into your own project, and it will contain this CSS for reference. And like I say, this is just purely for reference only, so you can see all of the properties applied. I will add the extra, the min width I applied. I didn't want to do that, do I? We're not doing a variable. Min width and height. Like I say, these are not necessarily required. I'm just saying 300 pixels and height of 300 pixels. And the other thing that was important, it's already done. Yep, so that would that's that. Have we got this is the so this is the inner CAD, the foreground where we put all the text. We've got the Z index there, and we've got position relative, 300 pixels wide if we need to set any kind of width on it. But so yes, these are all there for reference, and I'll include these in the comment below. All right. Hope you enjoyed the video. Any questions? Leave them in the comments. If you would like to see other examples of this kind of thing, then let me know. We can do this with buttons. We can do this with anything really. To create the button, you would just do this on a smaller scale at the end of the day. You know, whatever you want to do. But if you want to see other examples, and I will do other examples of different effects later on, and this is going to be one of the first video in this series of sort of effects like this with animations. But if you've got any requests, put them in the comments below, and I'll see what I can do. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, subscribe and turn that notification icon on to hear when I release my next video. Thanks a lot, guys. Take care. Peace out.